वो माँ है तो गलत कैसे हो सकती है भला। परवरिश में कोई कमी न रह जाए, टिफिन में खाना एकदम स्वादिष्ट जाए, बच्चों के कपड़े वक्त पे धुल जाए, एक भी दाग रह न जाए। वो माँ है, वो गलत कैसे हो सकती है भला।
Which brought you to becoming a professional poet?
So we went into a lot of debt and about 50 lakhs. And I was so sure that all the debt had happened because of my partner. इसी ने भी अच्छे से संभाला, you know.
The blame game.
Yeah,
the only person to blame.
If you are going to write for everyone, it will never work. Poetry is a byproduct of the poet. Everything happened for a reason. कुछ बेवकूफियां ही हैं जिन पर आज हम मुस्कुरा जाते हैं। शुक्र है तब अक्ल से काम नहीं लिया। People are struggling in the field they don't love. जितना भी तुम ढीठ बनोगे, रास्ता उतना तंग लगेगा। पतवार को ढीली छोड़ के देख, माझी तेरे संग लगेगा, माझी तेरे संग लगेगा।
Hi Anamika.
Hi.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Neha.
It's a pure delight to have you today. And for the world, she's a poet, a storyteller, a truth teller, and as she beautifully puts it, a spoken word for the unspoken world. So Namika, we are very curious to know your journey and everything about your beautiful craft and art today. First of all, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. This is a lovely studio. Thank you for having me. And because we had a conversation before this as well, I was really looking forward to this conversation because I know it's going to be really good for me as well, you know, just having this free-flowing kind of a discussion with you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Same here. Very excited to hear your story. So I think let's start with, getting to know your journey of coming into poetry. I mean, poetry is such a beautiful craft and it is sort of faded in the world, and you reviving it back itself is a very enlightening aspect. So can you take us back to your childhood and, the milestones, the memories you remember profoundly, which brought you to becoming a professional poet?
Yeah. So beautiful that you asked me about the childhood. Yes. Instead of asking me about the professional journey of it.
Yeah. because it links to your...
And you always need to figure out, it took me a while to realize that I have been a poet since my, childhood kind of a time. But because as the people that we are, it takes a lot of time for us to realize that, okay, this is what you are doing and you want to be called as. Even today, I can't call myself poet completely, absolutely,
That's your modesty.
Yeah, not even modesty. It's like you haven't done that amount of work to be called a poet. So, and you know where you are lacking and you know everything about you. It's just that, the perception of the people that, okay, you are a poet because you have written poetries.
Yeah.
Not much maybe. Lekin my childhood particularly was everything about poetry and all because my father was a poet.
Oh wow. The DNA.
Yeah, and I never realized it because it was more like a school competition thing where you need to recite Hindi poetry, and because I was born and brought up in Kerala, Hindi sort of thing was kind of my responsibility in some way, that if there's a Hindi writing competition, elocution or something, I would be nominated by default, not by the mode of skill or something, but because you come from a North region, so you're going to do something in this competition or something, right? So I used to narrate my father's poetry. I used to narrate poetries of other poets that my father used to, prepare me for. So he had a wonderful way. He would have a page written about the poet, and then only he would come to the poetry part of it. So he would make me know more about what the poet wants to say in the poem, where does he belong to, what is his inclination or her inclination as in terms of topics or the region that the person talks about. And then I gradually realized poetry is a byproduct of the poet. It's more than just just a bunch of words or something, but the relatability comes from the experiences of the poet. So I think I grew respect for this, the whole art and craft while I was doing this exercise with my father, and he had a wonderful way of putting a tune to the poetry. So there used to have some rhythm to it. It was never kind of conversation kind of that kind of poetry. We all had this collective love for chand writing. So chand mein likhna means rhyming mein likhna, or there is certain rhythm to your poetry which is there to all kinds of writing. Even if you read a paragraph out of a book, you will read it in a rhythm.
Wow.
There is a rhythm in
it's
everything.
ingrained.
It's ingrained. But it was so beautiful to narrate poetry in the school written by my father and of other poets as well. And then life, happened. I got into English copywriting for about 15 years. I was doing my own thing. I started my 2 brands, my startup along with my co-founder, who is my life partner right now.
Oh, beautiful. What startups were these?
So the first startup that so I came out of PG diploma in advertising and public relations. So we thought, okay, let's do something in brand communication space. Me and my partner loved everything about brand building, from the entire story writing about a brand and everything, profiling of it.
Such a need of the hour.
Yeah. So we did that for 5 years. And then we took a step back and we thought, okay, let's do something in the product space. So then in 2015, we started a merchandise brand by the name of Utpatang. And
what a
name. Name branding is our thing. We just love putting names to the thing.
I think you guys rock it.
So we used to do licensed merchandise for film production houses, for events, and for celebrities as well. So we did for Justin Bieber, A.R. Rahman, and Amir Khan production, the film production house, Shemaru, Z Media, and everything. And then that's where the whole dynamics of our life changed, because we were not business people who could understand the financial part of it. We were more passionate and creative kind of,
more of an artist.
Yeah. And right now I have come out of a lot of understanding the finance part of it, but that time I was very novice, I think. So we went into a lot of debt, and about 50 lakhs. So we took a step back again. So after 5 to 6 years of doing merchandise for all kinds of brands and everything, we decided, okay, we need to actually, because we got into a lot of stress as well.
Of course.
Of, being in that zone for a long time.
And merchandise, inventory, stock, it's a lot of investment.
Yeah, and mini debt stock, we cleared the stock only 2-3 years ago. That was the amount of debt stock we had from that. And I think everything happened for a reason, because I went through my emotional journey, financial journey, and everything. And I put everything into my next step of being a poet. I started writing out of nowhere. That's another journey entirely.
How many years back was this, Anamika? The writing part?
I think it was 6 to 7 years ago. Like writing for writing purpose.
Yeah, as a profession.
Not as a profession. I started writing as a performer.
Oh. Okay.
The professional part of writing poetry happened much, 2 years down the line. Because I was just writing, I was just enjoying that phase of mine.
Right.
And the first poet that I wrote, it reached too many people than I expected, because it was my first poetry. I think then I got into that journey pretty organically. That okay, this is working and I love doing this. Though my first time on the stage was not very, peaceful. It was.
What was the experience? I want to know this.
So the first poetry invitation came from one of my friend who was putting up a show for the mothers on Mother's Day. That, we will invite all the mothers and we will have them narrate their story and poetry and give them a stage. Because they are the nurturers, they have always been with them. Let's do this for them and we will organize an event for that. But as a tribute to the mothers, he asked me to write a poetry for mothers. that after all the performances, you can just come on stage and narrate something for them. So the audience was majorly mothers, and the kids were there to support them. So I had, a ground full of mothers at that time, and I was not a performer. So after a lot of follow-up from the friend that kuch likha hai kya, kuch likha hai kya, I thought, okay, maybe he has asked me. I don't know why he has asked me, because I was not into Hindi poetry till then, full-fledged kind of a way. But I thought, let me give this a try. And I had my mother with me at that time, coincidentally actually. And I was just watching her do her thing. And I thought, okay, my mother is not like, the way the poets put it, or the stories that we hear about, that, mothers are like this, they are the sacrifice is their thing and everything.
Yeah.
And I have seen my mother stand for herself so many times in her life.
Very unconventional.
Unconventional in many ways, breaking stereotypes, breaking this, the restrictions of the clothing aspect of it, what to wear, what not to wear, those kind of thing. So I have seen her do her thing, run businesses as well. I have seen her run 3 businesses at home, from home.
What an inspiration.
Yeah, and that too in a place like Kerala, where she doesn't know the language very well, but she did a clothing business, she ran a beauty parlor, then she got into stitching business of it, and once she had a business of just selling carpets.
Wow.
So those kind of, so I was more like, what to write about her? How can I write about mother, which is more closer to me rather than what I have heard till now from others? And then I kind of, वो माँ है तो गलत कैसे हो सकती है भला. That was the first 2 lines that came.
Wow.
And
can we get a little excerpt, please?
Yeah, maybe a para
please.
of it.
That would be.
कि वो माँ है तो गलत कैसे हो सकती है भला. परवरिश में कोई कमी न रह जाए, टिफिन में खाना एकदम स्वादिष्ट जाए, बच्चों के कपड़े वक्त पे धुल जाए, एक भी दाग रह न जाए, वो माँ है, वो गलत कैसे हो सकती है भला. So I started from there.
That was so beautiful.
Yeah. So I then imagined her, wrote the poetry, and the next day it was the event, and the mothers had performed. We were already running late. There was still a performer who was there. And at the end of it, so I cancelled my recitation, because I was more like, I'm very afraid to do this. We don't have the time. And I'm very happy about it, because now I will not have to, face the stage and everything. And the friend was also like, haan, theek hai, we are running late, and okay, no problem. But then what happened is, towards the end of the event, there was a folk performance. And they were correcting their instruments, just tightening strings and everything. So my friend came running and said, how long is your poem? And I said, around 3 minutes. Okay, can you just do this while they're doing, because the audience is getting restless, and you can just, engage them with your poetry.
No escape.
Exactly. And my partner was there, my brother was there, my mother was there. My mother was a performer in that event. My mother writes. She has been writing for 15 years now.
Wow.
So that push kind of was, the push from above.
Meant to be.
And I went there. My paper is shaking. My lips can't just move. It's sticky. And everything that happens.
Stage fright. Yeah.
And if you watch the video closely, you can see all of this happening. I am doing all of this stupidity, and my narration is out of tune and everything. But I did that. And because my mother was sitting right in front of me, I think it helped a lot, because it was as if I'm finally telling her, what I want to say. And after the show, after that performance, kind of something shifted in the entire, in that space, that the mothers were crying, and a girl came running and took the paper in which I had written the poem. And all sorts of things started happening. After a few days, we released a clip of it, and that went kind of viral.
Wow.
And then we released the entire poem. That went across the borders. That, like, I used to get messages from the RJs of Pakistan, and
Really?
they used to send me voice messages on Facebook Messenger that we heard this poem, and I could see people reciting this poem to their mothers, writing to me what that poem made the difference that that poem made to their lives and everything. And for 3 months, Neha, I'm not kidding, मैं ऐसे बैठ के बस messages पढ़ती थी. It was like as if I have nothing else to do in my life. This is it.
Very unprecedented. Right?
Yeah,
I
because I
mean,
was-
I don't think you expected this at all.
At all. It was going to be a one-time thing that I just, did that time. And
But
yeah,
I think it is the authenticity in which you wrote
yeah,
which reached out, right?
definitely.
The rawness which makes it so much more real. Do you think that's what touched people's hearts,
Yeah.
rather than consciously making it, a creative craft? Like, when it is just heart to heart, very natural.
Trying to write
Yeah.
beautiful. It never works. It never works.
Yeah.
So I always keep saying this. If you're going to write for everyone, it will never work. I wrote that poetry just for my mother. That's why it worked.
The emotion.
Yeah, because I personalized it to the nth level that I was not thinking about, अच्छा किसी और की mother भी सुनेगी तो उनको कैसे लगा. I was not at all in that zone. I was completely looking at my mother, thinking about my experiences with her, thinking about the moments that she was, she had, and she was an inspiration for us. And even today, after that, what happened is you try to write good. Okay, viral gaya to अच्छा कुछ ऐसा लिखते, it never works. You
I
can't write good. You can only write honest, raw, and very personal to you. अगर मैं उसके बाद में पापा के ऊपर जो लिखा, that too happened in a very similar way. I wrote it for my father, and so in the past 7 years, if there is something I can say, you can't write good poetry. You can just write.
And now put it out in the
Yeah.
universe for people to perceive.
Always.
So, is that your format for all your poetry? In the sense, like you said, that you write for a particular person, or let's say you do for corporates as well, right? So, what is the intention when you start creating it? What's your point of focus? Like for
beautiful.
this one, it was mother and then
Yeah.
the father, but if it is like a full larger group
Huh. Beautiful question. Okay, so if I'm going to write for corporate, if I'm going to put up a session for corporates, I will go back to the person in my life who is living that life, the corporate life. I will really get into the life of that one person.
Oh, so you actually have a conversation with.
I will, because I am a great observer. So touch wood, it really helps me. I have had numerous conversations with my brother, my partner, with people around me. Even, if you watch us sitting, my group of friends sitting and talking, it's kind of a podcast that is happening right there. Because we are not talking about anything and everything. That's also there, the part of it. But we also get into the lives of each other. So when I talk to my brother and when I watch him talking on the call, taking the stress of that space, and managing and doing his thing within the family circle, and then stepping out of it in a second when it's a call from his office or something, everything. So when I'm going to do something, I'm going to keep him in mind. I'm not going to keep 50 people in mind.
So you have references around
Yeah.
you, real life.
Yeah.
It's more or less like acting, right? You absorb emotions and
But I don't write on behalf of them.
yeah.
I write, for example, again, it's nice perspective to put it out. If I'm writing, for example, it's a very that kind of an example, but let me just give it out. If I'm writing on, say, sexual abuse, okay, and I can't narrate what the girl went through. I can't. Because
haven't
even if
experienced-
you say you understand, you don't understand. You haven't lived that life. You haven't faced the thing that that person has faced. So when I'm writing on that, I will write what I'm feeling about that topic. I won't become that person. I will be writing about, okay, what actually am I feeling as someone who witnessed this from a distance, so such a distance, and this happened with me. I was asked to write about Nirbhaya a long time ago, and I had to go through this process. It was a very tough piece of writing because I thought I will have to gather the experience and write something about it. But no, I was not supposed to write about that. And then I sat, and the first line was something like, what can I write about something or someone who couldn't say a word before she could go away from us. The line was around this. So I think the writing, everyone has a process. So my process is just either going inward or just focusing on one person in my life. And then it kind of, so you can say it's a format, but I don't like to put it in that way because, in my creative world, I'm supposed to break formats. And I'm supposed not have formats. You can say it's a flair of writing. Like maybe in my head, I have a process. Yes, I do.
We can say that it's a organic but a structured organic format
in
a way,
maybe.
Which has just come up on its own.
Quite.
Wow, that's beautiful. So also, Anamika, do you remember the first moment when you started writing? Like a profound moment where you really remember that this was my first piece of art that I created?
Piece of art. Yeah, so you can, so you are saying that because what I can hear right now is that the initial few writings were very sporadic and, I was not sitting to write or something. It was more like, okay, I'm meant to do this something.
As in your childhood also, like how old were you when you remember that memory that, maybe 5-year-old where you actually wrote on a piece of paper with?
That I remember. I wrote a letter to God.
Oh,
and that was the first poetry that was 4 pages long. And it was more like me having a conversation with him. It was very kiddish, but I read that poem about, 10 years ago something, and now I don't know where that poem is. But when I was reading it, I realized that, okay, I had this in me in that age of time, It was, maybe I was, I don't know, 7 to 8 or that kind of age. But I think, yes, I remember that vividly because I wrote it behind a very thin copy that, I want to write this. I am trying to remember the title of the poem. It was some 2-worded poem. Mujhe पूछना है or something like that. But yeah, I remember that. I remember writing it. Right now I type, but I remember really being into it and doing my thing. I never narrated that poetry to anyone. I narrated it some months after I had written it because I was more like, this is something not to be shown. This is for me. And people will call me silly because I have written very hugely kind of, ki chote muh badi baat wali cheez in this. So I kept it within the wraps for a long time. But yeah.
Yeah, I think initially we all feel that, but then we realize, as humans, we all have relevance to everything because inherently we all feel the same emotion. It's just that we show few and we don't show. So I think eventually it relates. Yeah. And I'm sure when you brought it up, people could relate to it.
I don't even remember. I just remember that I was too much into what is good and what is bad. And that is the question I raised in that letter to God. Even today, I am very much into that. Ki kya sahi hai, kya galat, in between part, the grey part of it. I think I question that a lot because the kind of things that happen around you. I even question the rule book that we have of being the good person, of not being loud, of not being too questioning and those kind of things. So even today, I kind of try to have that kind of conversation with, myself first. But that was the core context of that poetry that I wrote that time. So I think I am still in that mode of figuring that out.
Yeah, the quintessential questions, right, of human life.
Yeah.
What is right? This reminds me of this quote, it's a French quote. It's called raison d'être, and which means there's nothing right or wrong. everything is meant to be.
Huh.
So which means that whatever negative things are happening on the planet, so when you say the criminals and the crime is also meant to be, it's part of nature's plan. And the right, of course, is the positive side, because I think it's all a part of the cycle. Eventually that's what you realize.
And it's very evident also. I can't even negate a part of it, this concept and this thought process, because we went through a lot of, the downs of life, and the life I'm living right now, I'm able to experience right now, would not have been possible if I was not going through that. And that could have not happened if there were no bad elements of the society involved in it. And now I'm wondering, I don't know what they gained out of it, but I gained so much out of it. So whenever I'm doing something, even if when I'm discussing something and someone says, that person is like this person does this, I'm like, maybe that is absolutely fine.
Yeah, you
maybe
become
that
so
works for them.
non-judgmental.
Yeah, बहुत मुश्किल है. It is so difficult to be in that space.
Consciously, if we do, it's tough. But if naturally you become that person, which is, like you said, it's a part of our evolution. With our experiences, you come to that stage where it's effortless. You can't judge even if you want to. I think that's a beautiful state to be, because I think your lens of looking at people becomes so neutral.
It's disturbing to some level, because you want to be angry, you want to say the bad things, and you want to be this really, but because now you can see you want to know the story of that person, you're more like, why is this person behaving like this? Maybe, maybe something is not good in that person. So now what happens is I'm more like, how was your childhood?
Oh my God, I do the same.
Yeah,
because the formative years, the first 8 years is what actually governs your personality.
Even the insecurities of your life, even the way you react, even the anger in you, even the sadistic part of you, even the negative aspects of you, everything has a reason there.
They did a study on criminals, right? Recently, where they figured that why a person becomes a criminal, because of the first formative years, they go through so much trauma, which brings them into this. So you start looking beyond the physical, the obvious, the deeper layer of a person. So I think, it's beautiful to come to that state.
Yeah. It's a practice. I can't even say I have come to that stage, because I will have to take a step back, and I'm like, and it's very relieving as well. It helps you.
It's actually liberation in a way. For me, I think that's what liberation would mean.
Yeah.
What is poetry to you as a person? Is it a form of expression that you use to express a particular emotion? How would you define poetry?
I have never sat down to define poetry.
But today, let's just...
I understand because I know...
No, I mean, not a very formal definition. But what I'm trying to understand is how instrumental it is in your life today, because I'm sure your life revolves around. It's literally like you're breathing it. So how would you, define it in that perspective?
So I think, to be absolutely honest about it, being a writer and a poet actually keeps you always a little frustrated about not being able to write about something, more than the joy of writing. I'm mostly worried about the poems I was not able to write.
Really?
Because while I'm talking to you, if there is something that comes to my mind, I can't just get up and go. And I know that after 1 hour, I won't have that liberty to write it down. And this happens to me on a very daily basis, that I'm in between something. Either I will have to be really mad to just get up from anywhere and any place, not thinking about anyone at all, But even at night, I have struggled to have a good sleep because something has clicked me. Or I really want to write something.
I can relate to that.
And even when I'm able to write, not able to finish that poetry and taking it with the flow that I thought I had it in me, that frustrates you even more. So for me, what poetry does to me is, it keeps me on toes. And it's always testing my ability to put things into perspective. And for example, I saw separation of people very closely, of couples in recent times, right? And then I saw the life that they lead after being separated. It's not liberty. It's more like because the society is not ready for it. So it's a lot more pressure on them to live freely after that, in fact, which is very sad. Now, for last 3 years, I have been struggling to write on this. एंड मुझे लगता है कि हम बोलते तो हैं कि हाँ पोएट्री is about expressing, and for me poetry always makes me wonder why I'm not able to express this, why I'm not able to bring this out into words or as a form of poet. And if I try to write on it, it won't come out good.
It has to naturally come.
It will have to be at a point where I'm absolutely sure about it and I'm like absolutely in the flow. And that poetry really helps me also. It heals me on the way. I'm like, oh my God, this is, I just did this. I just released from whatever I was going through. It's very heavy profession in my sense.
That's a very interesting perspective, which I think very few people would realize, From the outside, it looks like you're into this flow state of creativity. Yeah. But the internal, that chaos that we all go through.
We are yearning for the flow.
Yeah.
As a poet, we are more like waiting for that. And that wait is so profound in one way and so heavy in some other way, because now if you want to convert it into a profession, you will have to write on command. And that's where the whole dynamics of the craft changes. And though we have been doing it for years now, the real release or the relieving part of it comes when we are doing it for ourselves and we're just doing it and the people are absolutely loving it or, just touched by it in some way. So yeah, that's what poetry is for me. And I think this is the first time I have been able to put it into words, because isse pehle I was more like, poetry is alright. It's like, this and that. But no. It's very difficult to keep being just go on being a poet kind of a thing. It's a life which is not so great because you're always struggling to put things into perspective in some way.
I think it's a dichotomy.
Yeah.
The peace and chaos, kind of, how they say. And I think every time you release, you have a period of peace, but then you go back to that chaos sort of that you spoke about. But it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. That's the whole purpose. Because if I'm very fine with what I'm doing, that means I'm not challenged enough. That means I'm not doing things above my bar. I'm just within my limits doing things. I will never feel irritated or frustrated. Where I actually feel frustrated is where I feel like I want to push myself beyond this and I'm not able to do this.
The
pressure of it. So I absolutely love being, and I think I am very privileged to be struggling in the field that I love.
Yeah.
People are struggling in the field they don't love.
Yeah, at least this is better.
I want this. This is what I want. So, okay. So the God is like, okay, now do it. Do your thing. You have been given a partner who is absolutely there for you. You have been given a family. You have been given friends and everything.
The whole ecosystem.
Yeah. If I put up a show in Pune, I have people who are like, okay, let's do this for you. And what all can you ask for? What more can you ask for from this life? But that's where I keep my acknowledgement at one part. And then I want to be honest with the aspect of it's not always creative and fancy. It's not that. It's very
cathartic.
It's cathartic in some.
So Anamika, I mean, you beautifully explained what poetry is for you. I'm also very intrigued to know, which is a very relatable thing for me, that what transition it has brought into your life from a corporate, very commercial career to becoming an artist. Of course, this also has a commercial angle, but I want to know the differences it has brought in your life, changed your life as a person and overall in your surrounding.
So the transformation that happened from being an entrepreneur and struggling with the everyday aspect of it, all the entrepreneurs go through it, and I have been happy doing it. I just had to let go of that pressure when I couldn't take it anymore, right? And I think being under pressure constantly brings all the bad aspects of you. How you are not able to manage your emotions, how you are not able to respond the way you should have, how you're not able to look at the perspectives, the different angles, the context of everything. And I think I struggled with my relationships, my friendships, my health, my financial status at that point of time. Even the way I was able to communicate what I was going through, I was not able to do that properly because I was like, everything is happening to me, I'm the person who is going through this, the victimized mode of it. So the transformation happened when I started working on myself. Like, it's a very cliche term in today's time to say that working on myself, everyone seems to be working on themselves. But it's the most toughest part because the way I had to go through it was, I had to take care of my finances first. And I was so sure that all the debt had happened because of my partner. इसी ने भी अच्छे से संभाला,
The blame game.
Yeah,
the only person to blame.
The finances was supposed to be taken care by him. I was the more creative angle. I was doing the HR thing. I was doing the brand building thing, and he didn't tell me he was good. And I was like so stupid maybe to think that why was he not able to tell me that this is how deep we are in shit, Sorry for the word. But I think I went through a course which was on wealth and everything. And the beautiful aspect of that course was, for the first week, they made me accept that I'm 50% partner in the debt. It is not his, it is mine. And believe me, Neha, I couldn't do it for the longest time. I could do it in words, but I was not convinced. I was like, okay, let me be the bigger person here. But definitely 80% goes there, Yeah. Even if I had to divide it in some way.
We are conditioned also that.
I'm conditioned. I have the proofs. I have the logical reasoning. I have everything to prove that it is up to him to do that. And the day I had this cathartic cry that I went through, when I really had to accept it, because the person sitting in front of me couldn't take it anymore. She was like, you are not accepting it. Even if you're saying it, I can see that you're not able to say it honestly within yourself. So I think it started from there. And when I did that, my relationship aspect of with my partner changed completely, and it took another 5 years, frankly. But the journey started from there of taking the onus of it, and I realized that why was he not able to tell me? That is where I was responsible. Why was he not able to tell me what he was going through? So when I started looking at that point, I was like breaking down the things that happened in the past 10 years of entrepreneurship. And then I took sessions. I went to a psychotherapist and I took sessions with a very nice person. I lost my father during that time, so I was going through another kind of turmoil. So those sessions helped me a lot figure out how to figure out when I'm not able to. So for example, they just give you the tools, right? They don't give you mantra. This is the mantra, from today you are healed. That's not going to happen. So they tell you, okay, whenever something like this happens, these are the questions you need to ask. This is the way you're supposed to look at. And I have been using it even today. I use that part of the healing in everything that I do right now. But then this poet's journey started, and I put everything into that space.
I think that would be the healing part for you.
Yeah.
When you started expressing through your poetry, I think that's the best way to heal.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. So therapy, in the sense, you took a particular therapy, or was it just counseling?
Counseling.
Okay.
Counseling. I took counseling, and at one point I had to really take nerve relaxants to just help me absorb what the person was trying to do with me, because the therapy sessions are only possible when you are in a state of mind to surrender yourself. You can't push someone to, okay, you are not doing good, go and take a therapy. It doesn't work like, it's not a Saridone that you can take and be with it. So I think I became so aware about myself, the way I behaved, the way I talked, the way I reacted. Everything became so alive in front of me, and it was not easy for me. I think it was the most difficult part of it. I think healing is so difficult. It is even difficult in an ongoing fashion also, because you are always looking yourself inwards. You are not at all able to pinpoint or finger at someone. This is the cause of my worry or something, because you are the person who is behind everything.
Yeah.
So I think the poem writing started when I could really say honestly what I wanted to say. Otherwise, I had so many filters in me, the way I talked about myself, the way I presented myself, because during that entrepreneurship journey, I was all about lies. I was like, hamare itne crore, itne lakh, itne client, itne customer, nothing was happening. I was crying in my bed, and I was more like, okay, let me tell the lies of it, and maybe it will work
The
for me.
hardcore selling.
Yeah, the hardcore selling. And somewhere being in Delhi, being amongst all kinds of entrepreneurs, always being in their circle, wanting to prove yourself, wanting to be validated for what you are up to, it takes a toll on you. It kind of you are not able to see what actually happens to you. It only happens when you are pushed to an edge, and then you are like, अब यहाँ से गिरना ही है तो चलो रुक के देख, मुड़ जाते हैं एक बार क्या हो रहा है अपने साथ में. तो I think that happened. So yes, it had a great impact of me coming from there to shifting to this space. And I realized way too early in my writing that I can't write for the sake of writing. So that's when I started to write on topics that resonated with me first, even if it's financial struggle, even if it's mental health, even if it's, all kinds of career-oriented complexities that a woman faces when being in a space like this. I used to talk about a guard. I used to be so angry at a guard who was standing in the building, who never used to greet me, but used to greet my partner. And I used to be like,
ego.
oh my God, what is this with this person? Why is he not saying good morning to me? Those kind of things. And it's a beautiful journey. So the transformation is ongoing. But
So today, what are the emotions you relate to in your life? If you can name some emotions that you experience on a daily basis as compared to what you experienced before, like you said, the stress part, the darker side. But today, how would, let's say, 5 emotions that you would feel are the highlights of your life today?
I don't know if I can answer this properly or honestly, or if there is a way to do it. But for me, the first kind of emotion that comes to my mind is empathy. Again, it's a very kind of a term that I don't know how many resonate with it. Before I feel any kind of emotion, I take a step back. Even if it's anger, even if it's happiness, even it's something I want to feel so excited about. I have kind of learned to take all kinds of emotions on a similar scale. So it's not that I'm feeling so happy, then I'm feeling so sad. So where I can feel myself experiencing something is, I'm in a constant mode of looking at myself. So even if I'm in a happy zone, if everyone is laughing, I'm laughing my heart out, there is a part of me that is looking at me, that is kind of watching me, that, am I laughing because everyone is laughing? Or am I laughing because I am feeling the joy of it? Am I really feeling joyful at this moment within this group of people or something? So for me, the emotions have become so entangled or neutralized.
Yeah.
That's the right word, maybe.
The balance, like you neutralize everything, and that's actually a very beautiful state to be. It's considered to be the highest state of self-awareness. From being a victim to a witness is what they say, that you become a witness to your own life.
Constantly.
It's
Constantly.
I mean, it is a beautiful state, but I don't know. I go through the same thing. Sometimes I feel, I also want to just not look at
Yeah.
myself at all and be unaware. Do you feel that? Sometimes?
So now the beautiful part, Neha. When I am looking at myself, I realize that no one else is looking at me actually. And I become free at that moment. I know that I can just, my sari could be like this or this, and I know that if I ask her after the interview, my sari was proper, she won't know. It is only me who is so aware about the crease, about the fall and everything. So I realized after constantly witnessing me that no one is looking at you. The way you are looking at yourself and being aware and trying to do the right thing, you are just putting yourself in a cage. So the more I look at myself, the more I come out of that cage. So I think it has worked in a very different way for me. So I don't, even if I have said something stupid in this podcast, I won't worry about it. Because I know that I don't worry about anyone else doing it. Because if I am
Yeah.
observant about others as well, I know that if today you haven't asked me the one question that, maybe you have asked me a very lenient question or something, I won't know. I am too much into this conversation right now. But you will be very aware of it. You will be very aware of what I asked. Maybe I'm saying as a person, as a generic perspective, that we are only self-aware about ourselves. No one else is. No one is looking at you. I don't know what Sheetal is exactly wearing or what she is doing at this one, but Sheetal might be aware about it. So that kind of understanding grew on me after a long time of being this person who is self-aware कि बाल ऐसे हैं कि ऐसे हैं. Now I am more like, अब मैं कोशिश कर सकती हूँ, but अब ऐसे ही है. More in that state.
Yeah,
So
that's also very liberating again.
हाँ, it's very liberating. It's very liberating.
Because it takes away that stress of being perfect all the time.
You can do it for the love of yourself, like you like things in a proper way, you can do it, but you will stop doing it because someone else is watching you. That's it. That's the only thing will happen.
Wow. So also, Namika, I would like you to, put some light on if, let's say today, somebody identifies the art of poetry in them, and they're also into a similar career, the typical corporate career, and they want to kind of transition into this. Can you guide them and educate them as to where they can start, how they can start, and to kind of also avoid the challenges you went through, so that it's smoother for them?
So again, I will go to the crude part of it. There is no start to this journey because you can't pinpoint it. As I have seen with myself, you can't pinpoint when it started exactly. When did I start becoming a poet? That I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me give you a life case. Let's say I am a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Which I might be, guys. And if, let's say, I am right now pursuing a corporate career, but, I know from childhood that I have this bent towards writing. But I also have to earn money, pay my bills. So now if taking this life case, if you were to talk to me as a 20-year-old, what would your guidance be to me?
So yeah, keep writing. Don't ask for too many feedbacks. Start doing things out of fear, not because you don't fear anymore or something. Don't wait for the fear to go away before trying something out. Keep the job. Do the writing for good enough time. When you realize that this is something you can do 9 to 5, the way you are doing 9 to 5 job. If you are not able to do this 9 to 5, even if it's a creative writing, even if it's sketching, even if it's painting, dancing, if you can't do this 9 to 5, this is not yet something you can do professionally.
It's not your passion.
It's not your passion. It is something you're doing after the work. It is something you're doing in between work. And if you stop doing the job and you think, okay, this is something I love, now I'm going to do this. Now you have the pressure of making that art earn money for you. and that art will start feeling like a job. So till the
That's
time,
a thin line, right?
yeah, it's a thin line. Till the time you're not able to completely be in a position where you can write continuously, you are kind of, you understand the professional aspects of it. Maybe that is on the way, it will come and go. But what happens is the moment people write 10 poetry, and because we have easy platforms out there, which is good and which is very nice actually, that you have a space to put it out there. But just because you have a platform to put it out there, you feel like, okay, I can do this. You know, I got these many likes, I got the response. But there is a very, the very honest life part of it, where converting your art form into a professional thing is as tedious as doing a job or running a business. It is not a hobby anymore. You will have to, if you are making reels, let me just say you are a stand-up person who just make reels out of home, say, you know, funny things online or something, you will still have to do it 9 to 5. You will still have to schedule it. You will have to have an Excel sheet when the content should go out, because the platforms that you are working on work on an algorithm. They work on a schedule. They work on reach. They work on views, and they work on numbers. Wherever the numbers are involved, you will have to take the profession as a job.
Yeah, there are mechanics that you have to follow.
Even when I don't have a work, I'm still writing every day. I can't escape writing, because the day I will have the work, I will have to be so spontaneous in delivering that work that I will have to constantly working on my skill and my craft to be someone who can be hired professionally. But if I am like कि अब तो freelancer, अब जब काम आएगा तब करूंगी,
Yeah, जब मन किया
जब मन किया तब करूंगी. So the reason, very nice. So the reason why people switch, that is where the whole story lies. If you are switching because लोग तो कमा रहे हैं इसमें से, तो मैं भी फिर अपनी मर्जी से काम करूंगी और कमाऊंगी. The reason itself tells you that no, it's not your time to. But when you see that, you know, I'm earning this much already out of this profession, the amount I'm earning from my job, and now I can make a smooth transition. I already have a 6-month corpus. I already can give myself the time to experiment in this space. And if it doesn't work out, I can go back to whatever I was, you know, doing earlier. That's the very sweet spot of taking that jump. That's, you know, leap of faith actually. So for me, I was still doing writing, the English copywriting. I was working for brands. I was doing my thing continuously. I was looking for work. Poetry was something that happened on the way. And then COVID hit and things worked in favor of me, because there were brands wanting to still do work, still put out videos without having to produce at their end. So I used to put my camera at home and produce the videos for them.
The timing was
the
right.
timing was right. And I still struggle at now even. I still struggle with that. But then I have understood the way out of it. You know, I know where the money lies, and I know where the craft needs to be protected. So I take those things. I don't have the ego of writing bad. I am not like, until unless I have written a really good thing, I won't deliver to the brands. If it works for the brand, I put it out there. I am like,
yeah,
okay.
I think it's a fine balance.
It's a fine balance. There's a name attached to it. So there's a respect that you want to keep with your craft. But then I know there's a deadline.
And also there's no end to it, right? I mean, creativity, you can go on. But to structure it in a timeline probably helps. At least it's out in the world to consume. To be consumed and
then come to the next piece.
Yeah.
Just keep creating.
Keep moving.
Yeah. If this has not come out the way you want, okay, create the next one. So that speed is the speed of anything, even if it's in business, even if it's a creative craft or something. I think the speed of execution is a great equalizer to everything that is happening beneath. The rocky thing that is happening, even with not work or this and that. The ideas that you have, if you have enough speed of executing it, everything falls into place. Wow. It's like एक बहुत बड़ा एक ऐसे juggling होती है, and then, you know, the coins, if you just juggle it quickly, they will just fall in the right space. But if you are like, okay, let me just put the one coin at one space and stack it properly.
That's so beautiful. In fact, I think it's also like a dialogue between you and the universe, right? When you're putting out a creative piece, until you get a feedback, it's an incomplete process, right? Like I'm saying, if you constantly keep putting out, your dialogue also becomes more refined. And your art also goes better, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, amazing. So, what you're trying to say is, let's say if I'm starting, first thing is I have to identify whether it's a hobby or just a recreational part, or I have enough passion for it to become a career. That's the first step, right?
Are you completely in love with it? Are you in completely love with the negative aspects of it?
Overall.
Yes. So if I'm in completely love with you, I will love you for all the wrong reasons as well.
Embrace.
But if you're like, okay, got into this profession thinking that it will going to serve me, it's going to serve me in this way, but this side I don't like of it, then you're not in love with it. So that's why I say I'm very privileged to be struggling in the field I love. Because I love the negative aspects of it, and that's the struggle part of it. Putting up a show, selling the tickets, and not having enough audience at times, and having the audience at times, the good part of it, getting all the accolades of writing something which you know that you won't be able to replicate ever, and then not being recognized even when you thought you have written something wonderful. These are the negative and positive aspects of it. So if you are fine with it, step into it.
I mean,
jump
just
into
putting yourself out for people to judge
it.
your craft itself is very courageous, I would say. So hats off to you.
Hats off to you. Everything is a craft, right? Everything.
Yeah, we're all trying our best. So let's say that is one. Let's say now I identify it's my passion and I can do it 24/7. And then you're saying that keep writing for a while with the job. And so what is the point where I know that now I can quit and completely full-time get into this craft?
I believe there is a sign that really something shifts in you. You keep reaching out. Okay, there is a space where you are writing poems, and then you are posting, you are sharing, you are doing this with that and that with that. You are going to open mics, performing it, seeing the audience react. And then there is a point where you realize this is what I meant to do. This is something I'm absolutely comfortable with all aspects of it. I embrace it. I love being on stage. So if I am always kind of avoiding the stage, and I always find it very, what to say, the poets who are like, I have written something, can you narrate it? I can't do that. I will have to say my thing from, it should come from me first, because I'm so excited to read out that to you. I'm not caring about how I'm narrating. Am I pronouncing it right? I have a written good enough or something like that. So if you're not able to narrate it in your own words or the way you want to, there is a sign that comes where you know that this is what you're meant to do. So that happened with me much later. When I decided that, okay, now I'm going to put spoken word performer under my name. That came much later. Otherwise, I used to put brand consultant, brand communication, those kind of things, because that's where I identified myself with. It took some time, even after I had written good enough poetries and performed. But it took some time for me to actually write spoken word poet below my name. So I think that comes to you when you are ready. And मुझे लगता है कि the surrender part of it really helps you. That, okay, what I'm looking for a sign. And then keep watching for it. And that will come to you. So,
wow.
Being aware about is very important. That तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, you should know. You know, even if it's the confusion, so you will have to ask, okay, I'm confused. Give me a sign to remove this confusion. That should be your ask. Your ask shouldn't be make me a poet. Give me a stage. That shouldn't be your ask. Your ask should be something that can lead you to an answer. So I think whenever I'm feeling so bounded by my own thoughts, I try to figure out what am I exactly seeking here. where am I struggling here exactly? Then I put it into a sentence that easily can help me relieve myself from that burden of figuring out. The once I have put it in a sentence, it's like now it's not my job. It's something someone else is going to do it for me. So,
yeah. Wow.
I think, yeah.
That's amazing. And also, let's say once I identify, I keep writing, how do I monetize my art? Because that is, I think, the biggest pain point today for a poet who wants to take up as a profession. And you have gone through that journey. So any, suggestions or value add you want to give to people who are, upcoming poets, how they can actually start making that as a proper profession?
So I think the way I look at it, the way I have learned while doing it, and I'm still learning. So I realized that you can be doing the same thing, but you can package it differently. I can package it differently. Consider that you are writing on emotional health and wellness, okay? And maybe I'm writing for gender stereotypes and equality and those kind of things. What we kind of try to do is what we are good at, we don't stick to it. We wander around it so much that we are not able to monetize what we are really good at. So I have realized that once you have realized that this is what you're good at, if you are good at writing on emotional health and well-being, but you're right, nahi, but mujhe phool patti pe likhna hai. Do that. But you should be able to identify what comes easy to you, what comes naturally to you, organically to you, and what you're able to put into perspective quite organically without having to struggle around it. So when I'm talking about gender stereotype or mental health or wellness, it comes naturally to me because I have gone through it. So now associating with people who want to express these aspects through different art forms, I will have to package myself for them. I can't go up to them and say कि मैं कुछ भी लिख लूंगी. I write on everything. No, I will say, you want this, I'm very good at it.
The niche
of it. You will have to figure out and do everything. Everything works at the end of the day. But the packaging needs a niche. And within that package, doing other things become easy. But if we are all spread around, I'm like, I can do this, I'm good at this, I can also dance, I can also sing, but I also do poetry, because you want to be like, अरे किसी को
not a clown.
छूट ना जाए कि मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ, and that I heard the hard way.
Wow, I love that tip. I think that's
Yeah.
a very good kind of introduction to the world, that you need to have a niche to introduce yourself. And let's say, how do I make myself a brand? Like in the sense, what are the platforms I can use? Can you also give some guidance on whatever I create? How do you structure that and put it out? Because you have a channel, which is amazing, guys. You have to check it out. It's called Batton Ki Bakwas. It's very entertaining, very meaningful. And I love your packaging. I mean, so something for the upcoming.
So if you want to be a brand, treat yourself as a business. You can't treat yourself as a freelancer or as and when you want it kind of a person. You are a full-fledged business now.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is so important. I learned it the hard way.
Yeah. You learn it the hard way. You're more like, I'm Anamika Joshi. No, you are Batton Ki Bakwas. You are BKB. You have a logo. You have a platform. Whenever you do a production of ad film, you write a BKB production. You hire people. You team up with the people who match with your energy. You outsource work. You don't do everything by your own. Even if you know how to do it, you kind of take help. That is the first part of being in a business, that you are not going to do it alone. You are not like, but यार मेरे तो 10 views ही आते हैं, अब इसके लिए मैं थोड़ी edit कराऊंगी किसी और से. Then you're treating yourself as
That's
an individual.
exactly why you need to.
Exactly. So the moment you start treating yourself as a business, you start becoming the brand. And that brand building happens only when you start understanding that there is a monthly remuneration attached to it, and that should keep increasing with each month, and you will have to dedicate this amount of time, and you will have to be in it in all ways possible, even if it's meeting people, traveling or something. You can't do this once people start recognizing you. You will have to do this when no one knows about you. And even if I came to you 4 years ago, I would have talked like this maybe. Even if I come to you 10 years after this, I will talk to you as a brand. Because I think knowing yourself as a brand is the first step of it. I had this beautiful conversation with a poet, okay? And she was like, I go through each email that my team sends across to any brand because I know what I stand for. I don't want a word shift from here or there. I know my value. If someone is saying we can only pay you 30,000, I know my worth is 60 or 80 or 1 lakh, whatever it is. So waiting for others to recognize you is the biggest mistake that you do. You will have to recognize what you are worth. Even if your closest acquaintance or friend or partner is saying that, "Tu zyada mang rahi hai."
Oh.
And you, at that moment, you should be saying, "No, I don't think so."
I know my worth.
Yeah. So being able to do that at every step, because that's a pushback. That's a great pushback. And that comes from their insecurity rather than they judging you.
It's a reflection.
It's a reflection of what they are not able to come out of, right? So I think in this creative field, you face that a lot. कि पैसे नहीं भी है, पर सामने वाला कम भी दे रहा है, but it's not the worth that you're looking for. And brand building actually goes through that process, that you will have to create a brand out of you so that you can actually start being the brand that you were behaving like. So you might be behaving like a brand, but you become the brand after a point when you have gone through all of these experiences of that.
I think when you take it more seriously is when the world takes it seriously. Is because art finally is also a business, and that combination is beautiful. So I love that. Thank you so much.
And this sentence that you said, you taking it seriously, which means if I have a schedule of sitting to write at 11 o'clock, even if I don't have a boss, even if I don't have any other place to go, even if I don't have an office, and I'm supposed to I'm at home and I have all the time in the world, okay, but I need to take myself seriously and I will sit at 11 o'clock for the first 1 month, 2 months. Others will be like, "Arey, but please open the door, go and do this because you are at home, we are in the office," and those kind of things. When you just stick to your routine, continuously, the discipline, by the 3rd month, they will start respecting you. Yeah. It took me a few months before my family started saying कि नहीं 11 बजे तो उसका writing session होता है.
Yeah.
Because I used to always get a call about 11:15, 11:30, and I used to say that I'm in a writing session, even though I'm doing it alone.
Yeah.
I used to say that I'm in a writing session. I will call you at 12 o'clock. And now it's a point where my sister is like कि मैं तुझे call करने वाली थी, फिर मुझे याद आया तेरा session था.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how seriously we'll have to take
starts from you.
It starts from you.
Absolutely. This reminds me of my book writing, when 4 years I was writing my books, like my family used to wonder what am I even doing with my life, because until it is launched and it is out in the world, they have no clues and you're judged by your closest people, and for your good, of course. Yeah. But I completely relate to what you said, and it's a great tip that take yourself seriously first, value yourself, and follow discipline. And like you said, take it as a business. Because I've seen a lot of artists, amazing artists, just with this logic of being organic, they feel business is organic. Yeah. That's completely delusional, right? I mean, business has a structure. Finally,
it can only be business if it has a structure to it. And now here comes, so I don't know if I'm navigating away from it, but there was this really good author who is now, making films and writing films. He came and started explaining to me, there was, this author, this writer who used to start writing from 7 o'clock and would not just stand from his desk till 6 o'clock in the evening. And even if there are guests at home, they would just come and go. He wouldn't get up and everything. Those kind of things. And I said, okay, but what was his wife doing at that point? He was able to do that because there was a wife serving behind the curtain, serving the guest and doing that thing. So when I say discipline, I also say there is a responsibility attached to it. And I also say that when you glorify people who do things without, taking care of other aspects, they are privileged to do that. You will have to acknowledge that. But I'm saying if you want to start being a brand or something, put aside 2 hours of your time. May not be you can't do from 10 to 6 or something, but maybe from 1 to 3 or 3 to 6 or some kind of that time. कि ये time मेरा है.
Dedicate.
Maybe you don't do anything in that time, but ये time मेरा है. मैं 3 बजे बैठ जाऊंगी, मैं कुछ नहीं करूंगी.
It's like you're waiting to also receive.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you need to also show up to the universe that here I am, available for you, doing nothing else. And please send me what, like an instrument, coming through you, the art. Wow, that's amazing.
A poet actually used to say that poem comes to me, but I make sure that it comes at 9 o'clock. Because I sit at 9 o'clock.
Wow. But this
No,
is
you're
true.
realizing how many years he will have to always sit at 9 o'clock to make it work for him.
All right, Anamika. We come to my favorite round and segment, rapid fire. Do you enjoy that?
Let me see.
I'm surely going to enjoy this. So, all right. First, a poem that never left you.
Written by me? Or?
Yeah, you.
Oof. Oh my God. I
On
got
top of your head.
That never left me. माँ तुम भी गलत हो सकती हो in some way. Yeah.
That was your first official.
Yeah, first of all. I think there are experiences attached to it. That's why.
Amazing. A scent that smells like home.
My mother's shoulder, whenever I lie on her shoulder, there is a smell that. Wow. So I can smell that with my partner as well at times. So I can actually.
Wow. Amazing. A phrase that keeps you grounded.
That keeps me grounded. Do it for the fun of it.
Lovely. A fear that you have outgrown, that you had.
What will people think about me?
I think we all relate to it. A dream you still hold.
A dream, very vague, but I think I still want to be clear about what I want.
Still figuring out.
Still figuring out.
Amazing. Okay, so we are going to the next segment now. It's not a rapid fire, but something to do with your craft. So I will give you, few situations and you can probably narrate a poetry which reminds you of that, or maybe spontaneously say something on it.
Okay.
Whatever you choose, right? So the first example or a situation is somebody going through a breakup and says that I want to go back to my ex, but I know I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
This is the emotion.
Okay.
So anything that comes to your mind as poetry on it.
Not poetry, just something that you shouldn't. Because I think romance as a genre is something I started exploring not from the breakup point of view, but from the point of view of building a relationship. So when it comes to that emotion, I have always realized that if there is a reason that you have broken up from some place, it's always to move ahead of it, not back to it. So yeah.
But have you written anything on this
I
subject?
wrote on my partner, but it's more like letter kind of a thing that I read in rhythm, which I don't know by heart, but I have written 2 lines, which is very silly. Okay? It's very silly.
Irshad.
It's not even a poetry, but I wanted to tell someone how much it means. What happens when someone who you have lived with for a long time goes away and something happens to you and you don't have that person nearby to say, what just happened. So I had written that कल दरवाजे पे मेरी उंगली आ गई थी और मुझे तेरी बहुत याद आई.
Oh, nice. How
It's
cute.
more like
The
I
little
got
things.
hurt, but I have no one around to say that I got hurt. So
The child in you.
yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Second, I feel like I'm failing at being happy.
Mhm.
So constantly, a person is feeling that I'm not able to be happy. Something that comes to your mind.
I don't know how it relates with it, but all the failing aspect, how we think that we were stupid, we had no idea what we were doing or something, and we remember those times as painful times. But when I wrote about it, it was more like कुछ बेवकूफियां ही हैं जिन पर आज हम मुस्कुरा जाते हैं. कुछ बेवकूफियां ही हैं जिन पर आज हम मुस्कुरा जाते हैं. शुक्र है तब अक्ल से काम नहीं लिया.
Oh, wow.
You need to have such experiences to laugh about later. So just don't try to be happy all the time. So just be silly,
Stop trying.
stupid. Yeah.
Just be.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Third situation. Somebody is feeling that their body is changing, in a certain way, and they hate it. Like they're not happy with how they look, let's say. Anything on that?
So not poetry, but again, I am a great believer of working on a skill set of yours, harping on it, that everything else matters nothing. Like it doesn't matter how you look. You feel confident because you are so good at one thing. So dedicating yourself to one craft in your life and pushing yourself to be better at it, it minimizes and, it takes away all the insecurities from other spaces. So even if it happens the way how you are looking, how fat, thin you are, everything, when you're not satisfied with how you are leading the life. And a simple way to do is to catch on a craft or a hobby or a art form and then work towards it. It's a beautiful journey to perfect yourself in that.
Go deeper
into it. आपकी बहुत सारी insecurities बहुत वो हो जाती, dissolve हो जाती हैं. तो मुझे बहुत लगता है कि अगर आप स्विम करना अच्छा लगता है और आप स्विमिंग में बहुत अच्छे हो, आपको और चीजें भी बहुत अच्छी लगने लगेगी. आप और जगहों पर भी और सहज हो जाओगे और कॉन्फिडेंट हो जाओगे. सो आई थिंक with body shaming that happens around people, that we can't control, but this is one thing that you can really.
Yeah, I think anchor which
point,
is a
yes.
validation for you.
For yourself.
For yourself.
Yeah.
Self-validation.
Because you don't realize that अगर आप एक चीज पे better होते जाते हो, the moment you start working on it and keep getting better at it, there is something जिसका ripple effect आपको और जगह दिखने लगता है. Your relationships start getting better. The way you speak about yourself start getting better. True. Because now you're confident that if I put my mind and focus at one thing, I can do anything. So that discipline starts replicating in other areas of life. तो वो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि that is where you should focus rather.
Beautiful. The last one, something on finding your purpose. Like, I think this is a very kind of common feeling with every human. We all want to find our
And this is my favorite topic as well. Because I'm still finding my purpose. So for this I have something to share.
Yes, please.
कि तुम जुनून ढूंढ लो या सुकून ढूंढ लो. So we are, in between finding our passion and finding peace. And we're always juggling between these two, because when we are running behind passion, we are like, we are not getting the time to take a pause. My God, what kind of life is this? When you are peaceful, you are like, everyone is running ahead and I'm getting behind, and how long should I be in this state? तुम जुनून ढूंढ लो या सुकून ढूंढ लो, तुम अपने हिस्से का 2 जून ढूंढ लो. Now 2 जून means basics of life. There is a कहावत in Hindi कि इंसान को 2 जून की रोटी चाहिए, which means he just wants home, shelter, food, that kind of thing. But today, if we see more deeper into it, our basics have changed a lot. Your basic is something else, my basic is something else. तुम जुनून ढूंढ लो या सुकून ढूंढ लो, तुम अपने हिस्से का 2 जून ढूंढ लो. कभी जुनून के रास्ते में कांटे मिलेंगे तो कभी सुकून काटने को दौड़ेगा. तुम जिस तरफ भी चलना चाहो, मन दूजी तरफ को मोड़ेगा. तो जिस पल भी तुम जिस पथ पर हो, उस पथ की तुम नब्ज टटोलो. छोड़ के मन की खींचातानी, खुलकर उस पल के संग हो लो. जितना भी तुम ढीठ बनोगे, द मोर यू ट्राई टू कंट्रोल, जितना भी तुम ढीठ बनोगे, रास्ता उतना तंग लगेगा. पतवार को ढीली छोड़ के देख, माझी तेरे संग लगेगा, माझी तेरे संग लगेगा.
Oh my God, this deserves a standing ovation. It is so beautiful. It just made me so emotional.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
So I think purpose happens when you finally surrender and go with the flow. Very cliche, but that's the truth that you will have to experience at some point. So,
And the way you've put it so beautifully and so simply. I think that's the beauty of poetry. It just simplifies.
it simplifies
Yeah.
emotions. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That again now brings me to, the core offering you have for the corporate specifically. I mean, we have all been a part of it and
Yeah.
we know the stress levels that they go through. So just curious to know your way of, using poetry to then reach out and make it transformative for them. How does that happen?
So just how you said it, right? It simplifies things. And sometimes when we are in a loop, like in a corporate life or something, all that you need is not to prove anything or not to inspire or motivate them. Say something that's absolutely relatable to them. Put in words what they are going through. I think the biggest need of the hour is putting into words what the other person is going through, being able to do that. So when I'm talking about corporate wellness and how I want to go about it, my idea is not to narrate poetries to them. My idea is to connect with them and bring all my experiences of being an entrepreneur, being someone who struggles in various aspects of life, and then share that struggle and a little bit of how I have been able to navigate through it with them, but in a very structured format so that it's easier for them to figure out a way out by themselves. Instead of just listening to me, making them talk about certain aspects of life, making them understand the significance of asking for help, significance of communicating to other people what you exactly want, or communicating with yourself what you're looking for in this place, or what exactly are you seeking here. And these questions are so broad that it's not easy to sit and find an answer in a way that you understand. So I can try to be that tool that can help them lead themselves into finding the answers for them. So I think what I really want to do is create an experience of conversation merged with poetry, merged with stories that I have gone through, and ask them the stories that they have lived and the experiences that they have gone through, and bring it together in a way that we create something at the end of it.
Co-create
something.
Wow.
So I think I look forward to that kind of thing, because poetry in environment where there is no purpose involved is more like an entertainment or something that you just consume. But when it comes to making it work for a group of people, then I'm also putting there a purpose behind it, which I think is going to be a good experience for me as well, as much as I want it to be for them. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one thing, my takeaway is that it revives certain emotions.
Yes.
Like we all relate to poetry inherently. And I think that's also a release in a way, right, for the audience.
Yes.
And like you said, it opens up their heart to then share.
Yes.
It's like that trigger point.
Yes, it's like if I'm being so honest, you will start being honest.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of energy transfer that happens. That-
contagious.
yeah.
in a
If
way.
I'm going to say that I have struggled financially, and this is the time I have seen in my life, then they're like, okay, is this something that we can talk about? Okay, let's talk about this. So I'm not going to do a transformative thing or something. I'm just going to lead them to visualize what is out there for them, and maybe they find power in themselves to finally take one step towards that direction in that 1 hour, and maybe then take the journey the way they want. So yeah.
I think another thing also with poetry is what I absorbed is it makes something very serious, very kind of natural.
And consumable as a capsule,
Yeah,
easier to
yeah.
gulp down your throat.
Like we are all in it, kind of.
Yes.
It makes it more common,
yeah.
so that you don't feel like you're the only one.
And yet you are like, this being talked to me, this being pointed at me.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of
Beauty.
it. That there are 50 people sitting there, and it is being set to, the conversation is meant for 50 people, but each one is feeling that this is just about me. This is being said for me. This is what I needed to hear. So I think that kind of experience happens when you are absolutely raw and honest, and also vulnerable at the same time. I need to be vulnerable, not the person who is taking over their time.
Yeah.
More like including myself in that tribe, so that, because I have seen that corporate life up close from my end and from the experiences of people I love, and I know at some point where I can help them in looking at things, in the way they talk about certain things, and break certain barriers of how they talk about their job.
The language,
The language they
self-talk
use.
also.
The language they use. About their life. About
That's a
their
game
job.
changer.
Yes.
Wow.
That's it.
Amazing. Also, some formats, which we can, or you use already in a corporate to convey certain messages or knowledge. Can you just name a few ways you actually, perform these sessions?
So, I don't go with the format for every place. There is a very beautiful exchange of, energy that happens for each space. For example, if I'm going with a set mindset of, this is what I'm going to do. But after one poetry, that what you had planned the next is not meant for this
Yeah.
audience. This is something I can switch on. I should switch on spot and make them do something else or experience something else to them. So what I do is I bring in a lot of mixture of starting with the poetry, going into my journey in between, and then engaging them in an exercise kind of a thing where I give them a very basic rules of, what worked for me, with examples that why this worked for me, and then lead them to replicate those exercises in kind of a set period of time with a certain environment setting, atmosphere setting, where I kind of like to do certain light dimming and those kind of things. So I want to make it a more like a experience that stays with them even after they have gone out of it, because I have seen people message me after the experience that from this point on we are going to do this, which is something we have been afraid to do or something. So I think that breaking barrier thing happens when you're not following a format, rather going with what the audience have to give to you, so that you know exactly what they are there for. So
Wow.
I think I will be experimenting a lot, to be frank.
Yeah, I think
but,
that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
There's no standardization to it. And I think any message can be conveyed through poetry, right? So you must be customizing, let's say, even on leadership. If you were to talk to the audience and inculcate few attributes of leadership, I think it can be done in a poetic way.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Yeah.
Because poetry has always been a form of art where it used to inspire people, motivate people, leave them questioning or leave them looking for more answers. So poetry is just a form of communication for me, but capsuled in a way that it's easier to absorb, and it's easier to demystify certain aspects, which when you put it in sentences and everything complicates it further. So, and it gives you a little freedom. Because जब आप बात करते हो तो there is a high chance of you kind of offending someone, or saying the wrong thing or something, because you are in a state of flow or something. Poetry actually brings it all together. It can offend you, but in a very poetic way. It actually sometimes makes you feel the blow of it, but it helps you at the end of it. So I think poetry can do help in such way of
Magic.
leadership and
In
certain-
many ways.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a very refreshing way to, bring out a message in the business world.
Yes,
I think.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, guys, we are actually collaborating and looking forward to having Anamika for all our sessions, and you will experience this beautiful journey with her. And yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it actually.
Yes. Another aspect, very profound aspect of poetry is the healing part, right? I mean, it is a release, like you said, it is something liberating. What do you feel poetry can do to a person who's listening to it and writing and experiencing it all in one?
So for me, I started writing poetry not understanding that it's going to be a healing journey for me. Because when I started talking about topics that made me angry or made me feel kind of frustrated about certain things, and when I was able to put it into poetry, I realized that the emotion with which you write is the kind of emotion that happens at the receiving end of it when it's being narrated or when it reaches out to more people. So poetry, the kind of relief that comes from it is, okay, I'm not alone in this. So when someone says something about your life which you thought only you are going through, and which you thought you will have to face and manage it alone, and when someone comes along and says that I went through this, and this is how it helped me, or this is how I went about it, and you suddenly have this whole new world where you are like, I'm not alone in this, I can also do something about it or something. And it's not just about poetry, it's about other people sharing their experiences. But poetry, as human beings, we are very fond of something that comes in a form of performance or a rhythmic flow, or that has a beautiful way structured into it, so that it's easier to the ears, easier to the mind. And that's when I think the poetry hits your nerves the right amount of time. So I always say that the most profound things needs to be said very slowly and absolutely with no anger. And there have been points when I used to narrate a poetry with so much anger in me, because I was angry at that point. But the same poetry, when I narrate it now, I narrate it with a smile on my face. So I think it healed me in some way the first time I wrote, and what it did for me afterwards. So that's how
Can you narrate something which is an example of this transition?
So for example, Aakhir Tum Hote Kono. Aakhir Tum Hote Kono was a poem that came out from a experience of my close friend, and I was so angry with that discussion that happened, where they were talking about, the guy was talking about the girl he was going to marry, that this is allowed in our house and this is not allowed in our house. So the poetry starts with something like, देखो तुम मना नहीं करते, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि तुम मान जाते हो. जब तुम साड़ी के बदले सूट पहनने देते हो, तो the way I start that poetry, it's with so much anger and rosh emotion. But now when I narrate it, it's more like, देखो तुम मना नहीं करते, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि तुम मान जाते हो. So I realized that there is kind of a settlement that has happened with that poetry and with that emotion. That has happened with so many poetry, even with the poetry that I have written on marital rape, with sexual abuse, or with depression, with suicidal thoughts that people go through. So I think I will just give an introduction to the poem. It's a poem more about how someone struggles with emotional strength and has gone through the whole experience of giving up. and how we perceive someone like that in our society. So a more kind of a experience that I have gone through कि शायद उस दिन वो एक पल उस पर भारी पड़ गया, शायद उस दिन वो एक पल उस पर भारी पड़ गया. उस एक पल में बहुत ताकत होती है, तुमसे और मुझसे कहीं ज्यादा. वो पल आपको खड़ा भी कर सकती है तो आपको सबसे परे भी ले जा सकती है. उस पल की कोई तैयारी नहीं होती और ना ही कोई चेतावनी. कभी आपका ऐसे किसी पल से सामना हो तो तुरंत मुड़ जाना, किसी अपने के पास चले जाना या फिर किसी अपने को पास बुला लेना. मदद मांगने में पल भर भी ना लगाना, अपनी बात बताना, जी भर रो लेना, सब कुछ कर लेना, बस तुम चले मत जाना. उस पल के कुछ पहलुओं से मेरी मुलाकात हुई है और मैंने जाना है कि उस पल को रोका जा सकता है, पर उसके लिए एक समाज लगता है, एक पूरा समाज, एक ऐसा समाज जिसमें समझ हो जानने की, एक ऐसा समाज जिसमें सब्र हो सुनने की, एक ऐसा समाज जो पहुंच में हो, जो डराए नहीं अपनाए, जो हालातों से लड़ते हुए इंसान को हारा हुआ ना बताए. बड़ी हिम्मत लगती है अकेले उस पल का सामना करने में, तो जाहिर है कि सब हिम्मत टूट भी सकती है. इसलिए तुम अपना अनुमान मत लगाना, उस जाने वाले की हकीकत में अपनी कल्पना मत मिलाना. हो सके तो खुद को इस काबिल बनाना, हो सके तो खुद को इस काबिल बनाना कि समझ पाओ वो इशारे जो झांकते रहते हैं, कि सुन पाओ वो बातें जो अक्सर हमसे छुपाई जाती हैं, कि देख पाओ वो पहलू जो धुंधले से हैं, कि कर पाओ कुछ उस एक पल के भारी पड़ने से पहले, भारी पड़ने से पहले.
Wow. I mean, just I have no words, but a lot of emotions. Thank you so much, Anamika. This has been one of the best experiences.
Thank you. Thank you so
and
much.
You are a beautiful soul, bringing so much art and beauty to this world. So we are very grateful to have you. And I'm sure we'll sit again and talk more deeper into this. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lovely conversation, and I think with every conversation I figure out a lot about myself as well. And with that purpose in mind, this was a beautiful one. Thank you so much.
Glad.
Leading this.
Yeah, looking forward to having you again.
Thank you
so much.